Hello and welcome to Two Girls in a Pod Life's Journey. I am Sharon.
I'm Christy.
And as always, welcome everybody. We are always excited to do this. Well, most of the time we're excited. No, we are. We like what we do here.
Yeah.
We were talking once again, as we always do. And oftentimes I think we share people talking about the negative pieces of things. We have to fit something negative or that kind of thing. But you came to me with a different idea.
Yeah. We always talk about how the brain is in chaos and everything all the time because we're staying in a negative place. We hear a lot of negative news out there, a lot of things like that just weigh on our mind. But if you're the opposite of that and you have optimism, that
Doesn't
is,
that even sound like a nice word?
it does sound like a nice word, but I think that a lot of times it gets kind of a bad rap. People are like, oh, if you're the optimist, you're that Pollyanna kinda thinker,
Mhm.
and I just think that
Everything
we
is
should.
rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, I think that we should kinda look at that and say to ourselves, "Why do we feel that way?"
Well, and I agree. I think we always have the ability to be optimistic no matter what situation we're in. But I don't always feel like that's promoted.
Definitely not.
So as we were talking about this, and I love the term you used, optimal performance.
Yes. So there's been a lot of studies in that done that people that have a more optimistic outlook on life in general tend to perform to that optimal level. Your health, your body actually matches that.
And so you're talking about the brain and the heart kind of are
Yeah.
in alignment with each other.
Yes.
And I think that's the difference. When people are thinking, all those people who just talk optimistic, and I think sometimes you hear them talking the optimism, but you're not feeling it.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? So it almost sounds like what you're saying is that the mind and the heart kind of being in alignment, not only are you talking it, you're, radiating that as well.
Yes. And a lot of times we stay so in our head and in that thinking place and really can just it seems by nature that people can be in such a negative place in their mind. And I understand there's a lot of things going on in our lives that will make people feel that way. One of the things that I just read in the last book that I was reading, yeah, Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. And one of the things that he says in there is that the heart can send messages to the brain better than the brain can send messages to the heart. And I think that's so true because when you are feeling something, on that level of love, that message comes from the heart. It's not a thinking mind that is feeling that. You will feel that from your heart space when you give a gift, hopefully, or whatever it is. That is that heart center that it really resonates with you. And that sends a message to the brain that allows you to be more optimistic.
And I think when you're talking about that heart brain, I think one of the things is if my heart sense, and let's keep on the thing of love, if I'm feeling that in that true capacity of love, then the message it sends to my brain becomes a positive thought process,
Mhm.
which matches with what I am experiencing. And then that leads into the behaviors and stuff. So it's kind of like if you have that really strong emotion about somebody and there's no thought to it, like you said, it just kind of is there and you're just like, we're gonna say, oh my God, I just really love that person.
Mhm.
And then what happens is your brain sends you this message of, oh my gosh, you love that person. That becomes that thought. Then the behavior might become you go and you just hold them or whatever that is. And I remember working with the client, it was a couple years and years ago. And she would say often when they would have disagreements, she didn't like the disagreement. She didn't feel it was in that positive place or whatever. And I said, "But what are you having in those moments when you're fighting?" I said, "Do you still love him?" And she goes, "Yes." And she said, "So we have these things and then it gets silent," and all the whole typical thing because we all been there, done that at least once or twice in our lives.
Mhm.
And then there's silence. And she said, and I says, "Well, follow your heart." So when she came back, they had had a situation and he had gotten upset and he was sitting at the kitchen table. And she said, so they had been silent for a while. And she said, I remember what you said, follow your heart. And she goes, I kind of looked at him and I thought, oh my God, I love that man. He is a hardworking man. And I love that about him. So she had the thought followed by that. So she had the feeling. And then the thought became, I love this man because he's a hardworking man. And I love that about him. So then what she did is she followed up the behavior because before she would really work on staying out of that. I'm not going to be loving somebody who just had a fight with me, blah, blah. We do all that crap.
Mhm.
I go, what did you do differently? She goes, I went in the kitchen. She says, I went behind him. And she goes, I just put my arms around him and I just hugged him. Didn't say anything. And then I just walked away
Mhm.
because she said, I wanted him to know where my heart was in those moments. And I said, then what happened? He kind of looked at me and he says, well, what was that for? And she's because I love you. You are a hardworking man and I love you. And she said it shifted everything at that moment.
Mhm.
But too much of the time we stay in our head.
Yeah. And when you stay in that headspace and you get so worked up over the emotions and things like that, then you can't get away from that piece of it. But if you can go to the heart space and feel love like that, it takes you out of that thinking thing and that need to be right or to defend your stance.
You,
I
s-
think it takes you out of that.
you start to optimize
Yes.
you.
Yes.
And when I'm optimizing me, I'm going to optimize any performance I am doing, whatever it is, whether it's a sport, whether it's work, whether it's a relationship, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
We get that ability and we have the ability to do these things, even though we've been told, I think, throughout time, the optimist, oh, that little Pollyanna,
Mhm.
who wants that crap? You always say nice. Yeah, I mean, just all sorts. You constantly hear those things.
But really, in doing that and buying into that rhetoric, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage. And they have shown there's been so many studies that have shown that if you have that heart mind balance, like you're not staying in that worked up position, just coming from a place of stress and angst, how it can even play out physically in your body, how it helps blood pressure, all kinds of things.
Well, and I think even when you're looking at and so if we take it into a business area, it's kind of like if you don't have that optimism for what you are trying to embark on in the work and keep it in a work environment, whether it's starting a business or the business you're already working in or whatever. If you go in there and you don't have that optimism and you're not at that optimal place
Mhm.
for your performance, then what happens is it doesn't resonate right.
It downgrades what you're doing before you even enter in.
Exactly, and I was talking to a client, and he's doing some work, and he goes, "I feel like they're not utilizing me. I feel like," and he's all of this thing. He really wanted to work with this company. He had all these ideas about this company. He was enthusiastic. He was optimistic. He was at the optimal performance arena when he first entered. Then he gets in there and he realizes it's a little bit different than what he expected. And so what it's doing is he's having these negative thoughts about it we were talking about. And I said, you don't understand when you don't understand that no matter how small you think your part is in these corporations, it doesn't matter because if your thing is always the outcome.
Mhm.
And this is helping people. So it's kind of, I always tell people when you are in organizations and everybody plays a part in getting that product or that service to those people out there.
Mhm.
Oftentimes they're just not seen. It's all the behind the scenes stuff. I say this on this podcast often. You do all the hard work. You do all the behind the scenes stuff with our business. But if she's not optimistic and she's not performing at the optimal performance, we're going to feel it somewhere else.
Mhm.
And it's not about talking the talk only. It is about talking the talk and walking the walk.
Yeah.
It's getting those things in alignment. And that's what I was working with him about. And it's like, oh, I get it now. I said, you got out of that place of optimism and what this really meant to you because you felt like something you were doing was meaningless and menial. And
Mhm.
it's not.
Right.
It's as important because you do this piece, which attaches to this piece, and then somebody gets what they need.
Exactly.
But we often don't do that. So then it's a matter of you go in there not at that optimal performance level, and then you start beating yourself up because you want to.
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
it becomes this internal, almost this internal dialogue that we have of, oh my goodness, I really love this job, and now it's not what I thought it was, and not understanding that that we're the ones who changed the meaning and the definition of it.
Mhm. And in order to optimize your performance, you have to believe in yourself and what you're doing going in.
Absolutely. You know, when I do therapy, we always do our greetings and stuff like that. And my clients will always ask, well, how are you today? I will always tell them I am, it's fantastic or fabulous, or I'm having a wonderful day. My clients, well, do you have bad days? I said, well, everybody has. I said, I don't have bad days. I have bad moments. And I think those are the things that are really important. They're
Mhm.
moments. But what happens is we take that moment and we make it a day, or we make it 2 days, or we have a week, or whatever that is, because we start doubting and we start staying in our head and we're not doing that alignment.
Mhm.
I think it's kind of sad.
It's very sad. I mean, like I say, countless studies that show that how stress plays out in the body, health-wise even.
And I think that's 100%. And even like, where you see people who are they're starting businesses and doing stuff like that, it's like they're optimistic about the end result, but they're not optimistic about the process.
Mhm. Well, a lot of times you don't know what all it entails and things like that, and once you get into it, and that's where you really have to focus on the moment, be present with the process and the journey.
Exactly. And I think, like I said, I think we listen to so much of that rhetoric, that noise,
Mhm.
and we let that noise kind of take up a little bit of residence in us, and then we find that we're not being the optimist.
Mhm.
It's weird. We have a society that sometimes rewards the pessimistic thinking or the negative thinking more than the optimistic thinking.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's ridicule for optimism a lot of times.
Mhm.
But the fact of the matter is it's what it can bring to you. It's about you. It's not about the outside stuff.
It's really interesting because if you follow us and stuff, you know that we're big MMA fans.
Mhm.
And, sometimes I'll go read the comments, especially after a big fight and things like that. And it always amazes me how people get on there and instead of having gratitude for the fact that these two fighters got out there and fought, which entertained you, but it wasn't your form of entertainment because maybe they didn't get the knockout or the submission or whatever it is you've created in your head. They will get on there and they will trash talk these. And I see it more with women. I
Mm.
see them do this with women performances, women MMA fighters, and oftentimes it is males
Doing the talking.
doing the talking, that pessimistic stuff.
Mhm.
And you'll see people on there saying, "You know what? That was really a good fight. Thank you for whatever." And then there'll be that person, "Well, that sucked. I slept through the whole thing." You know what?
Yeah.
But once again, it's that drive to do that, not understanding that these people aren't there for you.
Yeah.
They're out there doing what they trained to do. You just get to reap the rewards of them beating the crap out of each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me, and it can be on, I'm using that as an example, but it can be on a lot of stuff that we see out there.
Mhm.
And we talked about this early on. The older woman who did the pose and just did that beautiful pose, nothing revealing, nothing, anything. And it was about being optimistic. The post was totally optimism.
Yeah, it was an elevation, for women, and I don't even remember her
Women as the
age, but it
age
was
and things
women as
like
the
that.
age, yeah, and just embracing themselves and that beauty and
So
that,
an
and
optimal performance she was doing.
yeah, and there were people that got on there and totally ridiculed her for, like, "Well, what are you trying to do? Act younger than you are," and nothing about the picture or anything was anything that even looked like she was, I don't
Beautifully
know,
done.
what
Beautifully,
dressed
beautifully done.
dressed not to her age or whatever. I don't know how people view that, but
But even when you do that, here somebody is out there really trying to elevate
yeah.
and they're doing their optimal performance and they're being optimistic in what they're doing and they're trying to elevate not only themselves but others
Yeah.
and being that inspiration. And I was really surprised because I thought, oh my God, this is really an amazing thing. Let's see. Because I went to comment and thanked her for sharing this and really trying to elevate people and that. And and then I was like, what? What? I don't even understand this.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I don't know if it's that optimism threatens the pessimist, the negative person. I don't know what that is, but it's amazing to me.
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with drama cells and that kind of
Well,
thing. And I think that a lot of people just get so wrapped up in that hype. And I think sometimes, even on a subconscious level, it's sort of their entertainment to be a part of that.
but I think the thing is understanding that when we do things like that, and even when we started this podcast, we said it was really to elevate people.
Hmm.
We said it really was about giving back, paying forward, those kind of things.
Hmm.
And then when I got on Wisdom app, which then went over to Noom Vibe, that community is the same thing. It is you don't get to go in there and tear down anybody. They have very, very strict rules about that. It is about building people up. It's about building community. It's about helping people be the best authentic version of who they are. And I love that about that community. You're not going to get on there and you're not going to find that negativity.
Hmm.
You're just not.
Well, I think that what people need to understand is that when you are putting all your energy on breaking somebody else down, something is amiss in you.
Exactly. And I think that's that next piece. It's when there's not that connection that's happening. And don't misunderstand, everybody has crap in their life. Stuff happens.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, and I always tell people, your mental illness, your bad day, whatever it is, does not give you permission to come in my office and be rude or disrespectful. I will meet you where you're at, but there are certain things I'm not going to tolerate.
Yeah.
If I will help you work through things, but this does not give you permission. And oftentimes, or people get married and then they feel that gives them permission to go into that negative space, or parents do it. I mean, but we have those things that we're talking about. And it's because we're not doing that optimal performance for who we are. And if I'm doing my optimal performance, I feel you're going to feel that.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes if you feel that, then you're going to say, I want that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even when you think about this, when you're teaching kids, and how many of you out there have heard this? "Well, don't you hang out with so and so. They're just a bad influence, and you're going to hang out with them, and you're going to get into this, and you're going to blah, 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 blah." Even though your kid is a positive, optimistic, they have their optimal performance thing going, man. But it's not like you sit there and say to them, honey, go hang out with them because maybe they're going to see that in you and they're going to be that.
Hmm.
We do the complete opposite.
Right. We don't think that it can have that kind of effect.
Exactly. So what is that mentality even in us but once again, when you hear that, oh, that Pollyanna or that goody two shoe, all of these terms that have been thrown out there
Yeah.
that people want to distance themselves from it. But the fact of the matter is your optimal performance is not about other people.
Hmm.
You even said it. When you're at your optimal performance, guess what? Your stress level's down. Guess what that means? You are more healthy, not only
Exactly.
physically, but emotionally healthy.
Yeah. I think identifying that is really important and understanding that when you start shifting your focus to being more positive or trying to see the good in situations, or even when there is something that's happening that's out of your control, looking for the lessons in that, those things help you in getting past that negative space.
And I think the thing is if you're at a place where you want to be more optimistic or positive or whatever of those words that resonates more with you, a positive influencer, somebody who pays it forward, whatever it is, become more educated.
Mhm.
Go listen to other people's stories about how they got to where they are.
Yeah. Understanding where somebody comes from is a huge piece of being able to see things differently and understand where that person's coming from. And it's not to make excuses for people that do something that's not right, but it's to help you understand the perception that they have and why they come to the conclusion that they do. And it's even though, like I said, it's not about making excuses, it's actually about you being able to let go of whatever you feel about how you think that person should be handling something.
Exactly, and I think that the more you learn that because the more you learn about yourself, the more we actually learn about others,
Mhm.
because we're not all that different people. We are all built the same way in some ways,
Mhm.
and we have the ability to change who we are in those kind of things, and everybody has that story, and sometimes just listening to the story of somebody and understanding their like you said, where are they coming from? Where does this resonate from?
Yeah.
Because sometimes not being able to tell your story can be just as disheartening and keep you in that negative space, or when you feel like you are telling people they're not hearing. So there's a lot of stuff, and I get it. And I think that we've talked about that, that there's a lot of things that happen out there that really do impact us.
Mhm. And, we talk about it all the time, but I think that one of the ways that you start to shift into a more positive, optimistic view of things, you can do that through gratitude. And, we talk about a lot, I get that, but it is one of the best ways I think to change your frequency about so much. I love that it's one of the Rhonda Byrne series for The Secret in that, and she says about, right before you go to bed, think to yourself, "What was the best thing that happened in this day?" It may be something small, but if you can shift your focus to that one thing, it's a start to be able to shift your mindset.
And I think when we start to train our brain to look for those positive and good things that are happening, but right now, I think a lot of people really, the training of their brain is what's that negative thing that happened?
It's so easy to be so complacent and just,
Mm.
constantly taking things in that you're hearing and I think that's a perfect way to say it. It is training your brain to think differently and how much power there is in that, but it takes training, which means repetition.
Well, it also means making the decision to be different than I am in this moment,
Yes.
to move forward. And it is, and that's why it's important. And when we say we start with gratitude, because gratitude is something very simple
Mhm.
and it packs a powerful punch.
Right.
And when I'm at that place of negativity, if I switch that, if I pause and I do a gratitude statement, and if the negativity is still kind of there, that residual, I do another one, and then maybe another one. And then pretty soon that's gone.
Mhm.
And then I'm there like, okay, now I can focus on the things that really matter. Because when I'm doing my optimal performance, when I'm at that place, everything becomes possible.
Yeah.
When I stay in that place of negativity, there is no forward motion.
Mhm.
We might think it's forward motion, but it's really not.
Mhm.
And I feel like when we have people getting sick more often, all of these things, and it's because they're staying in that place of stress and they're staying in that place of negativity.
Yes, when there's discord between the heart and mind, you just do not function at the same level.
I know that we will always have those moments in that time, and I understand that. And it's not to minimize those moments either.
Mm-mm.
It really isn't, because when we have things that are really impactful, I mean, it's not like I'm at when my mom went into hospice, it's not like I sat there and I was it was a very hard time. But I remember also talking with her, and she had had a situation, and they thought that we were gonna lose her at that point, but she tells me, she goes, "Ita." I go, "What, mom?" She goes, "It was a miracle." And I says, "What was a miracle?" She said, "I was gonna die. I was dying, but then something changed. What changed is my mom's ability to have gratitude,
Mm.
her ability to believe in her own strength." And I love that about my mother, and I love that she instilled that in me.
Right.
And That's what it is, his strength.
Mhm.
Now, was that a fun time? Absolutely not. But I could find those moments in there, those moments where we would laugh with her, when we'd play music for her, all of those things. But the other thing is, other people, they can focus on the end of life. Oh, hospice, they're gonna die. Yes, but they're not dead yet.
Exactly, and even in those moments, her being in that situation, all of you guys being around, and I remember her still having a sense of humor. I remember you guys all being in there, and I don't even remember what you guys were saying, and she was just laying there, and I remember she said, "You guys are a riot."
That's definitely my mom.
Yeah.
But that was and, I'm fortunate that was my dad too. He would crack us up sometimes, and
Mm,
it didn't matter.
yeah.
His humor, his those things that are important, and you look back, and I can look back with sadness or I can look back with gratitude.
Mhm.
But once again, it wasn't a happy time. The loss of them was not happy,
Exactly.
but I could have gratitude. And if I would go to that place of gratitude for the fact that they were such an important part of my life and gratitude for little things, you start building that up. And it's not
Mhm.
Pollyanna to sit there and say, I'm grateful for my parents and for what they taught me. And because when I did that, I could get back to my optimal performance much quicker.
Yeah. It doesn't take away or erase the pain of not having them physically there with you, but understanding that if you are so focused on the loss, it's really hard for you to remember and focus on the love. And I think, one of the things that helped me so much and still does, and when I think about my parents passing, I will go back to the place of I am so grateful for the love I experienced in my life from them and
Yes,
how that has contributed to the person I am today.
absolutely. And even those things, and it can be in any arena when we are sitting and we are getting stuck in the negative component of it
Mhm.
and real not understand. And, I mean, there's lots of reasons or whatever, but the thing is that it's how do I understand that in order for me to be the healthiest version of me, I have to look at being optimistic
Mhm.
because gratitude is positive
Yeah.
and powerful. There's not negativity in it.
Yeah.
Once again, it's not to say that there's going to be negative things in our lives
Right.
because there are, because life is happening around us.
But people just don't realize the power of the mind, and I think when you can elevate the emotion to match that thought, you are bringing yourself into a new place, new headspace, and new possibilities. And I mean, you can even go and look up. I know that there have been people who have healed themselves through laughter. You can go and look up studies on that. That is, it's amazing. But they got into that feeling place of being better, healthier, and those things through joy.
And that reminds me, there's an interesting story in one of the books we're reading by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he talks about this man who didn't realize much later when he was 18, he wanted to go off and he wanted to do sports or something, whatever it was. But the dad owned a construction company. Well, the dad got hurt or something, so he had to take over the construction company. He didn't want it. He hated it. So fast forward 20, 30 years, he gets married. He's bitter, he's angry, he's negative, and everybody around him, he's bitter, he's angry, he's negative. He's built this business though. So he went, started another part of the business, did all that, had some rough times even with that, but overall was a successful businessman. But he was bitter, he was negative, he was angry. Anyway, he goes in to the doctor. He has something on his skin. It turns out to be cancer. They have to treat it with chemo and that and radiation. It goes away, but he goes back in and he has another one. He had to do it again. So he goes back in the third time. They have another one, and he tells the doctor something effective. I'm paraphrasing all this. I don't want it right now. Give me a time. So he decides to take time away from work. He goes to, I believe it's Mexico, some little small place in Mexico, goes the first week he spends looking inward, introspection. And he came to the realization he was negative and he was angry. He was angry for the life that he was living. He didn't treat his wife well. He knew he didn't treat his wife well. All of these things came flooding to him. The second week, he spent, what am I going to do differently?
Mhm.
How am I going to shift from that negative individual into somebody who's more positive and more healing? How am I going to treat my wife differently?
Yeah.
Anyway, fast forward, he goes back to the doctor and he no longer has the cancer. And the doctor goes, "What happened?" He goes, "What he realized is he stayed in such a negative place, he could do no healing for himself.
Mhm. Exactly.
And he was negative, he was angry. He was mad because he didn't get to live the life he wanted, but yet the life he could have lived that could have been better, he wasn't doing because he was holding on to this anger and this negativity."
Mhm.
And how many times we hear that okay, as a therapist, how many times I hear and see that?
Mhm. When you're hanging on to that anger and that resentment and those kind of things, it's like an infection, a poison within your body, and it really does play out that way.
Absolutely, and it's not like we sit there and we think that we're practicing that, but we have to practice optimism.
Yeah.
But we don't sit there and say, "Practice your negativism," because it's so ingrained in the culture or whatever at times. Once again, how many times, if you go in and you get criticized or not, you have a critique at a job, it takes 7 to 10 reaffirming statements to negate that. What
Mhm.
does this tell us?
Mhm.
We are freaking backwards.
Yeah.
But just the power of changing from that negativity, from that anger, how switching all that. And he had to come to some realizations of his own
Mhm.
to the things that he had done and he had created with the people that had loved him. He could never get to his love, his heart space,
Yeah.
because he stayed in anger and negativity. So he couldn't even move to that place. But when he was able to move to that place, so even if the cancer wasn't gone, guess what? He got to live. If he had just lived his life, it still would have been a better life than what he was living.
Exactly.
That's the power of why it's important to have the optimism and that positivity. It heals us sometimes.
Exactly. It can play out it can have just as much power playing out physically as all the negative stuff that's creating all of the physical problems, but people just have to be aware.
I am forever grateful because I really do feel like that helped us in navigating our grief and loss.
Mhm.
And those are the things. uh, it's such a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And so when you hear those people being optimistic, don't shut them down. Encourage more of it.
Yeah.
Become a part of that. It's kinda like, when you go to concerts and stuff, that energy in the concert, everybody's just happy to be there, or, you're out celebrating something, people are just happy and you feel that, and then pretty soon you get to that energetic level as well, and you feel it. It feels good.
Yeah.
What's that like? Well, you said laughter is a heart thing too. It's enjoying moments, it's those kind of things,
Mhm.
and not taking and extending out all the negative moments. Extend out the joyous ones.
Yeah.
We've gotta flip the switch on this. People are dying too young,
Right.
and a lot of it is stress related, and that is our creation that we create, maintain, sustain, build. So let's just flip it. Let's work on looking for those things that we can have gratitude for,
Right.
the things that have made us happy,
Mhm.
the things that can make us happy, the potential for the future. There's so much out there.
Yes, and, a lot of times people think that they're being grateful for things and can be, but you can take it even to the next level. I mean, being grateful for that close parking space right in front of the door. There are so many ways that you can start to retrain your brain to see those positives.
And when we're talking about having gratitude, it's not saying the words alone, it is feeling the feeling that goes with it.
Yeah.
If you just have to start with saying the words, then you start with saying the words, that's the practice. Then you put the feeling to the words, and those are the things.
Mhm. And I think the way that you can really help yourself in doing that is think of those things that really hit home for you. When I think about my dog, I can go to that heart place. Oh, I'm so grateful for the love that I feel from her or those kind of things. I mean, yeah, she can aggravate me sometimes.
Just a little bit, people, just a little. But
But
you know what
yeah,
is amazing and what I'm always grateful for about her? She is curious. She is happy. She is just a happy dog,
which means she's a healthy dog. And I love that. I'm
which also means
so,
she's probably sometimes doing stuff she shouldn't do, but that's okay. We take it. And those are the things you find, and that's a good point. Finding those places that you can feel that the fastest and get there, and then you just keep building on it.
yes.
And so taking that time, flipping the switch, doing that optimal performance through optimism,
Yeah.
performing at that level is really about each individual. It's not about other people. Other people just get a benefit from it.
It's about taking you to the next level.
Exactly. It's about enjoying this journey and doing it in a way and not having to go. And if somebody's in a great place, let them be in that great place. If you're not in that great place, don't ruin theirs.
Right.
If you want to stay there, make that choice, that's okay.
Yep.
But don't go and take away somebody else's happy.
Yeah.
You know, it's not what we do here, or that's not what we should do,
Mhm.
because it's caring enough about ourselves and others. That connectedness that we have is
Yes.
really, really important.
Find your happy. It will make you healthy.
I like it. And as always, we hope that what something we say resonates with you. And if it does, interact with us. You can reach us on.
Yeah, Two Girls in a Pod, Life's Journey. We are on Instagram and Facebook, and you can go to the website, twogirlsinapod.com. You can subscribe there. You can reach out to us through that. If you do subscribe, then you'll get an email whenever we have a new episode uploaded. We appreciate it. Any likes, follows. We also have Adventures of Two Girls in a Pod on YouTube.
And in that, have we love interaction. Tell us your thoughts. Let us know. Interact with us. We will interact back. That's that thing. We want to develop these connections and see what resonates and what doesn't resonate or whatever it is. Those are the thing that's important. The other thing is if gratitude is something that you struggle with, we have Grateful Beginnings coloring book collection.
Yep. And
It is not just for children. We all I cannot tell you. It's really funny because I've been talking with people. How many adults who are there like, oh my God, I love to color. It really de-stresses me. That was the word they used.
yeah,
It calms me down.
coloring is very therapeutic, I think.
Yes. So you don't have to have children,
But if you do, grateful be
grandkids, nieces, nephews, the
yeah.
neighbor's children. I don't care. No.
Grateful Beginnings coloring book is about starting a dialogue with children about the importance of gratitude in our life and how it plays out and how it can help us on a very basic level of good health.
Yes. So as always, we're grateful for you. We appreciate you tuning in. And
By the way, you can find those on Amazon.
yes, you can. Under either Grateful Beginnings or under Sharon Abeda and Christy Banta.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. We really, really do. And for anybody out there who has purchased any of them or are thinking of it, same thing there. You can star it or
Yeah.
you can rate it.
Leave a review. That
Leave a
is
review. Thank you.
so helpful.
Yes, any of that stuff. We greatly appreciate it. Grateful for all of you. We hope that you guys all have a wonderful, terrific week. And we will be back next week.